This evening, Professor Small?
I'm doing very well, Brother Ronnie, very well.
Good, very good, very good. I'm just so happy to have you in my presence here. And, thanks a lot. We had difficulties today. The station is the transition from one location to another, and they just didn't have the technology together. But this is very good too. You know what I'm saying? In some senses, it's even better. Okay?
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So I'll tell you, I'll go ahead and I'll just start getting started. First of all, to our good brother, Runoko Rashidi, okay?
Yes,
I just want to honor him. I mean, he's transitioned to the ancestral world. And I just want to comment on that because he is one who I looked up to, have engaged in, his lectures and read his books and everything. And I think he was a very gifted person. And he brought quite a bit of information that needed to be brought to it needed to be brought to the forefront.
Yeah.
And he did it. And so again, I just want to honor and give him his praises because he has transitioned.
Yes, sir. And I was just on a program in Baltimore with Dr. Mahat doing just that. He's still in transition to the ancestral realm.
Yes.
The body that they will bring home will just be the matter. The energy that was him has gone back to the universe from which it came.
Yes.
And according to African tradition, he has become an ancestor. And the minute you become an ancestor, you become the yet to be born.
Okay.
So he is at that stage of moving into the ancestral realm where he'll be decoded by the ancestors.
Yes.
And he'll be reprogrammed to come back again.
Gotcha.
So that's the cycle of the African culture. There's no such thing as death in the way Westerners teach us this death, the finality or the ending of life.
Mm-hmm.
Death in the African tradition is not the ending of life. It's
right.
The transitioning into a new life. The transitioning into a new life. And that's where Dr. Rashidi, who has made an extraordinary contribution as a photo essayist, as a photo anthropologist, as a historian, photographer of over 140 countries and hundreds of museums around the world of African artifacts and African sculptures and art and historical objects. No one in the history of time that we know have done what Runoko Rashidi has done.
Yes,
and
yes.
present that body of work to his people to be studied and to be learned so that we can know ourselves and our past better.
Yes, and I think, it's just so important to understand our past. I think there's so much information about Black people, okay, that's just not known. It's no doubt in my mind, we've been here for millions and millions of years. I know every time the archaeologists, and they start to excavate and everything over in Uganda, or it could be Kenya or Ethiopia, they find this one, like, okay, this is Lucy, where we date her back to 1.3 million years. And then, oh, wait a minute, we found another one over here. We're going to date this one back to 1.6 million years. Who knows? Who knows how long we've actually been here?
And we don't know. Planet. We don't know what they found in the Mississippi Valley because they won't tell us the truth.
Thank you.
And I always ask people, do you ever hear a discussion with the Discovery Channel, with the History Channel? What's that other one, the magazine? But they never talk about
National Geographic?
National Geographic.
Okay.
But they never talk about ancient anthropology and archaeology in North America. Why? One would think you would glorify yourself, wouldn't you?
Yes.
But every time they dig up something, it comes up black, and so it has to be hidden. So
I
it has
heard
to be
even in
hidden.
Brooklyn, somebody in their backyard was digging and came up with another one of those heads like the Olmec,
Uh-huh.
in Brooklyn, New York. All right.
Listen, there's a reason why the wealthiest country in the world, with some of the greatest museums in the world, don't have an anthropology and an archaeology of its own that is displayed for the public to see.
That says
Why?
something.
We know
Yes.
they're digging it up.
Right?
They ain't putting it on display.
No, not putting it on display.
And so my thing is, every time they dig, it ends up going to black, and they don't
Right.
know what to do.
Right. Yes, yes, and I'll even, since we're on the subject, I heard that over in what is it, over in Arizona, the God, I can't think of it, the Valley, God, I
Grand
can't
Canyon.
Grand
Canyon.
There you go. Okay, in the Grand Canyon, down below, they actually did a little excavating and actually found these mummified beings with the Maduna Tour, the Meta Nature hieroglyphic,
Yeah.
had that written on the front of it, and like those beings were facing like towards east, but you don't hear very much about it. I mean, it was put out in something, I can't remember which magazine carried it, but just a little bit about it, and that was all.
Every now and then something will drop, but it is extraordinary that the wealthiest nation in the world, as big as this nation is from ocean to ocean, and from Central South America to Canada, that we don't have a single museum that we can go to and look at the ancient archaeology and anthropology of this nation. They'll throw up the 10,000 years of the Asiatics, who they call the Native Americans, who are not the Native Americans. Africans are the Native Americans.
Right.
Like we're the native everywhere.
Yes.
We're the Aborigine everywhere. Our Asiatic brothers came in about 10, 11,000 years ago. Yes. And we were at war with them for 10,000 years before their European cousins got here.
Yes.
So that's an untold story. We'll leave that one alone. Okay.
Well, I'm very familiar with what you're saying, and definitely, I can identify with that. Well, I tell you, what I wanted this evening, since I'm able to get your energy and bring it, and I'll tell you, Professor Small, I've been wanting to have this conversation for over 15 years with you. So this is manifested here on August 3rd, 2021. It has manifested, all right? But the topic, what I'm very interested, coming from a scholar, coming from someone like you, is the big. Well, first of all, let me preface my question by saying it is my belief that if African Americans, first of all, could change their thought process about doing business with the African, and if the African could do the same thing, I feel that it's almost like they've experienced a lobotomy on both sides. You know what I'm saying? We're just leaving the brain in, but they took out some software or something, and they don't work together as they should anymore. But once they can figure this thing out and decide to come together and work together for business and for the development of the African continent and for African American communities here, that our socioeconomic conditions would transform almost like overnight. That's what I want to say, first of all. And so my first question is, what do you feel would be the global impact of an African-American business collaboration?
A total transformation of the African world. African people on the continent is 1 point, I think it's close to 1.4 billion people. The 1.5 billion, that's on the continent.
Yes.
If you take the Africans off of the continent, in the Caribbean, Central South America, Europe, North America, you're dealing with another 1.3 billion people. So the African population in the world is close to 3 billion people, if not more. Just that alone makes them shiver in their boots economically.
Okay.
So that 1.3 or 1.4 billion that lives on the continent is on the wealthiest piece of real estate on the planet Earth.
Yes.
Every mineral you can think of, and it contains something close to 60% of the natural resources of the planet Earth, either in offshore oil resources or mineral resources within the continental shelf itself. And when you come to North America and Canada, you have some of the most technically trained Africans on the planet Earth.
Thank you.
Okay. Central South America and the Caribbean, again, you have a population of some of the most trained persons using even the crippled Western system and looking at the technology and the mechanism that the Western system have brought into being with our help. Because much of the inventions that has provided Western technology came from the Africans of the Caribbean and those in the United States.
Yes.
And so if you somehow can get those populations of Africans to unite around economic, politics, and culture, starting with the coming together around the economic, which is the foundation of the three systems, you would transform the African world literally overnight. The African American and North America's population have produced a surplus capital for the last 4 to 5 years, more than $1 trillion.
Wow, surplus capital.
Surplus, that's what we spend. That's our consumer money. That's not our savings. That's not our crooked money. That's straight up money, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
We got another $500 billion if we count the savings and the other monies. Okay. But let's just count the 1.3 to 4 trillion that we spend every year. What if we can take just 10 to 20 billion of that,
yes,
and invest it in structural developments and infrastructure in Africa? What if we can take another 20 billion of that and invest it in indigenous industrial development in Africa? What if the African can open up their primary institutions to African American partnership before they go to the Asians or the European to have this discussion?
Right.
We would transform the African world overnight. We'll begin to see hospitals built in the countries that need them. We'll begin to see clinics built in villages that need them. We'll begin to see the kind of roadway system built throughout the continent so the goods can get to market. We'll begin to see a transformation of the urban development when we can bring in the high-tech modern sewage technology that the rest of the world is using today, and on and on. But it takes capital and it takes collaboration between those with the capital here in North America and those with the natural resources there on the continent, and the need for institutional design and redesign that will come from the collaboration between North America, the Caribbean, the Africans of Central South America. And when I say the Caribbean, I'm talking about the Cuba. I'm talking about Jamaica. I'm talking about St. Vincent, St. Thomas. I'm talking about Dominican Republic. I'm talking about Haiti. And when I say Central South America, I'm talking about Brazil. I'm talking about Colombia. You know, Colombia have one of the largest Black population in the Western Hemisphere. People don't know. You know? And so when we take those populations that have access to Western technical training and merge those populations with the African population that need those technical skills and training, and then we use that with the African need for development, infrastructural development, industrial development. And then the culture part comes in, where the twisted Western minds that inhabit all of our consciousness is transformed by an African philosophy and ideology based on communal, collective, cooperative behaving around things economic, political, and cultural, you will see a major shift overnight in the world. Now, one may say, well, okay, the others got atom bombs and nuclear bombs. You can't drop that shit nowhere because it's going to kill everybody. So
that's
please,
right.
Stop playing. Where you going to drop it at?
Right.
And if you drop it somewhere, you can't go there and do nothing there.
You can't do a thing.
Years. So stop playing. Okay? Let's sit at the table, act like human beings, and learn how to use the resources of the earth for everyone on earth. But as long as the Africans in the diaspora and the ones on the continent both feel they can have greater partnership with their exploiters than with one another, the exploitation will continue.
Which leads into another question. I mean, one thing, you know, I have to compliment the colonizers on was, you know, what they did to our people, the lasting effect. You know, we're talking hundreds of years now. And, you know, for some reason, they just can't seem to see this. Not everybody, you know. I think some of the most conscious people of African descent I've come across are right here in the United States. However, the majority, that's not a majority. I'm talking about a very, very small segment of that population. But it seems like the other ones are lost. And what happened is once I started engaging with the people from the African continent, you know, itself, I found the same to be true. You understand?
Right.
The same thing
is true. It's true for the same reason, because somebody came to your house.
Mm-hmm.
That was a house that was basically made up of pastoral people and agricultural people. And they came with axe and swords and later guns and cannons and bombs. And they murdered their way over hundreds of years to power over the world. They didn't come and through scientific and intellectual smartness. They came as murderers, committing mayhem, rape, plunder, genocide for hundreds of years unabated on a population that did not have a clue that human beings could behave in that way.
Exactly, because, you know, according to all of my studies, the African, their consciousness was totally different. They were developing more spiritually. You know, these are like beings developing spiritually versus materially. And, you know, to have this group of people to come over, it was like something they never seen. They just didn't know the human beings could behave in that manner.
And after hundreds of years of that kind of physical assault on your body, on the environment and the ecology that you live in, through mining and cutting the timbers, through poisoning the water system, etc., on your psyche through their religious institutions and their educational institution. After 400 to 500 years of that, yeah, we're baffled. We're in trouble.
Yes, yes.
But we can get out of trouble just like you and I have gotten out of trouble.
Yes.
By learning the ways of our ancestors.
Yes.
And that's one of the things Baba Runoko Rashidi was showing us. Look who you were before you met those people.
Right.
Look what you were able to accomplish before you met those people. Look at what you did economically, politically, and culturally in terms of building civilizations and building kingdoms before you met those people. Okay.
Yes.
So
yes.
This domination, this destruction and death that Europe and Eurasia brought into Africa is unprecedented in the history of humankind, of one people being that destructively aggressive against another people.
No, I'll have to agree with you wholeheartedly. And just to a lot of my African-American brothers and sisters who still, I mean, with everything that's being presented to them, want to start their history in 1619, you know, I just don't know what to say. I mean, because now what you're doing is you're cutting off millions of years of being here on this planet, doing so many things that some we know and some we don't know. But, you know, I just last week I'm in a conversation with a friend, and as far as he's concerned, it's like, those people are those people. We're our people. You know, we don't have anything to do with them, with the exception of we kind of look alike, but that is all. But what we should focus on is this past 400 years that we've been here on this continent or in this part of, you know, the hemisphere, and look at all the achievements we made. That's all we need to know is
So
that.
what that person is saying, what that person is saying, let's focus on being a prostitute.
Yes.
Let's focus on being a whore. Let's focus on being a thief. Let's focus on being a liar, because that's what this system have molded us to be.
That's right.
We have become their play toys and their things and all of the spheres of gender, where we're the object and they're the subject. That's abusing the object. And I don't have to explain that.
No.
Folks get it. So let's be real. When you pick up a history book, European history don't start with North America. And yet they start with England and Greece and Rome, etc. But you want to start yours where you're being raped and you're being molested and you're in chains and you chained to a wall while somebody's forcibly having sex with your wife night after night. And what you call a manhood that you had to use to survive for the next generation is worthy of perpetuation. Then we're looking at somebody who's psycho-spiritually damaged to such a degree that and for you and me,
yes,
we can't be angry with them. We've got to recognize the deaf can't hear, the dumb can't talk, and the blind can't see, no matter how well dressed they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they may make sounds that sound audible, but they never heard language, so they don't know how to speak the language. You know, they may make you think they can see because they have learned the environment moving in the dark, but they can't see. Move the furniture around and they start bumping into things.
Right.
And that's what they get upset about. They don't want you to move the furniture around. But then that would tell them they need vision. They need new vision. New vision means new information, new ideas, concepts, and principles.
Yes.
And you can only get that through studying history. History will erase the white man's mystery and allow you to work your black magic. You know?
Thank you.
So
I got a question for you. Because you spoke a little bit about the reincarnation, the karmic cycle, how we leave, we transition, we prepare ourselves to come back, we're back in a new body. And do you feel that some people are predispositioned at birth to function in a particular way while they're here in this lifetime? And the reason I'm saying is because a lot of my thoughts, personally, about now, I didn't have all the information that I have gained over the past years, but the desire to want to know, as far as I can go back, I wanted to know about Black history and spirituality, and the two of them kind of coincided all the time. And that was the impetus, the inspiration that has caused me to do all of the studying, everything that I have done. And I'm just wondering how much, what sort of an impact does transitioning from the spiritual realm and coming back have to do with a person in this lifetime?
It has a great deal to do in African traditional cultures, no matter which one you look at, Yoruba, Akan, Ewe, Dogon, Zulu, Congo. They all teach that when we are born, that we come with a mission that we agreed upon with the rest of the universe, which we call the ancestors before we come. And we call that our destiny. That destiny is predicated on your last sets of experiences you had before you went through that process called death, to now come back to this process of being reborn. And so, yes, so people come with their destiny. But those persons who have vision have the obligation to raise the others who don't have vision to their level.
Gotcha.
And it could be done in one generation. Okay. The quantum leap we took with the Malcolm X spending 11 years among us, the quantum leap we took with Dr. King, who spent about 20 years among us, in terms of how we confront a system, its ideology, its philosophy, and its values. Two men caused us to transform America in ways it hadn't been transformed in 100 years.
Yeah, very good point.
Okay.
Very
And
good
so,
point.
because people listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so the enemy who are able to oppress the masses, black and white, by keeping them ignorant, understand if you move people out of ignorance to knowledge and enlightenment, they will transform the society for the better. But then that would mean the wealth would be distributed to the masses.
Right.
But if you want to keep, if the few that's controlling the wealth want to keep it in their hands, they don't need any transformation to take place. So they must assure they can keep ignorance as the dominant ideology confronting the people. You see? And so
Yes.
this is about intelligence. This is about information. This is about ignorance being eradicated. It's like the question in the streets of America today. They're talking about violence. Right now, they were having something called Night Out. The police department is right behind me. They were playing music. They had all the games. The community kids are there. The community people are there. The police are there saying, let's be lovey-dovey and be friends. That's not going to stop one single ounce of violence in the community.
Gotcha.
But violence in the community is caused by people who don't have jobs.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
So you want to stop violence in the community? Transform education so that it trains, tool, and prepares the student to find the work the day they step out of high school. Because you got an 18-year-old that within 2 years is going to be a father and have a relationship with a male or a female or a mother. And if you don't have the capital to provide the food, clothing, shelter, and the safety, you're going to get it from somewhere. And the only other somewhere is committing a crime.
That's right.
And once you move into that realm of having to commit crime to provide food, clothing, shelter, and safety, you're going to be in the realm where violence is one of the tools necessary to accomplish that. So we need to understand that violence can only be stopped when the education system produces a commodity that can take care of itself without having to steal or kill to get what they need for food, clothing, shelter, and safety.
Gotcha. Very good. Very good. Absolutely. And I don't know, with that being stated, but where do you start? I mean, how do you start to make these things come into existence?
You have to look at that as the foundation stimulus for the behavior of any human being. Food, clothing, shelter, and safety. We don't talk about it. We say, well, I want to go to college. Why? I want to be a doctor. Why? Because you want to make some money.
That's right.
Why do you want to make money? Because I want a house. I want a car.
Yes.
I want clothes. I want good food. And I want to provide security. So don't be lying to yourself. It hasn't changed since the days of the bow and arrow. Food, clothing, safety, and security being the primary motivation for the actions of the human being. Let's say that again, because we let it get lost in the sauce and a false sense of modernity that don't deal with reality. The desire for food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security should prompt us to make sure we take control of economic politics and culture where we live. The culture is where your educational system resides. Your educational system will train the people who are going to be in that sector you call the politics, which is the management system for that sector you call the economics.
There you go.
Economics is your being able to harvest and use the wealth that's in the environment you live in. Politics is the instruments you create to manage that wealth. Culture is the educational system that instructs and informs ethically and morally in what direction that should all be managed. So if the educational system is faulty like the one in America, where you train white people to get the pass and you train Black people not to pass, then you're going to have that discrepancy. I think a study came out today to show that for every $64 made by a white man, only 43 is made by a Black woman. And it's where I didn't get to see all of it, but I'm going to study it later on tonight. It just came out today, showing the salary discrepancy from the corporate level down. So as long as you play in that game, and we just saw it in the Olympics with Simone Biles.
Okay.
Simone weren't injured or hurt. Simone was instructed by the powers to be to stand down so young white girls get a chance to win some medals.
Wow.
tell somebody to dispute that.
Wow.
Okay. One of the young white girls, not meaning to, let the cat out of the bag in the interview this morning. The one that's doing the Geico commercial, jumping up on the roof. She says, I want to thank Simone for withdrawing so that we had a chance to win a medal. Then they shut her down. They wouldn't go back to that little girl. She made that one statement because her heart obviously couldn't take the crime these people had committed.
Right.
You know? And so she blurted out the truth.
And maybe there could be something regarding the girl, the Richardson, the track star who was supposed to be.
Yeah, right. And the same thing with the young Black lady who was the swimming gold medalist from the last Olympics, right?
Yeah.
Who won the 100. They said, oh, she's not going to run the 100 because she over-exercise syndrome.
Right.
I never heard no shit like that. I've been an athletic all my life. But we got to watch the bouncing balls of white supremacy using images to promote self-esteem at a level of international athletic protocol that has great psychological bearing on people. Simone had just wiped them out.
Just blew them away. I mean, Simone is doing things that other people can only dream of.
She was a god having a human experience, flying through the air, spinning, and she stopped when she wanted to. And so they did their little maneuver. I hope they paid, I'm sure. I hope you took care of my little babies. You know what I'm saying? Maybe so you took care of them well. But don't play me. I'm an American. I know who you are. I know what you do, and I know how you do it.
The eye is open.